Kanayurak umigmak. Happy 75th anniversary to Gnarl and all those that contributed. Uvululota, good afternoon. Nicole, Kanayurak Wojciechowski, Utkalvig Miogurnga. Good afternoon. Again, I'm like Craig mentioned, I'm the Deputy Director of Wildlife Management. And hopefully today I'll provide some insights on the value of good research with our community, lessons learned, and the need for research with our community into the future. My title, From Iglox to Utkalvig Mute, refers to the moment when visitors or iglox become part of the community. So during our traditional events like Nalukatak, we welcome iglox or visitors with pieces of flipper from the whale, or I don't know if you guys were able to dance yesterday or are going to on Thursday. We welcome iglox with a special traditional dance for the guests. And I think this applies for researchers too. We overall welcome and value good research here in Utkalvik. And I think the best researchers are gifted Inupiaq names and become Utkalvik mute, like Umigmak here. His Inupiaq name is Umigmak, and he is also an honorary whaling captain. So our people from this region have a strong history and leadership that we learned this morning, and a foresight, I think, when it came to all aspects of changes they faced, whether it came to tough decisions on ANCSA or the setup of the governance structure up here. And I think those traits comes with living in the environment and our nature. And I think this applies to incoming research activity as well. I think when first stories I hear is when researchers first came up here, some treated our people like patients in hospitals. You hear the stories of iodine 131 testing and so on. But you also hear, whether it was during the time the commercial whalers came up or when scientists came up to study sea ice, the Inupiaq were and continue to be a critical part of making research happen in a safe manner. I was looking over some notes in our department's archives, and simple things like Dr. Kenneth Tabak telling his colleagues not to go out on the boat today because the weather is not good, came from so much more knowledge that he held. And I think the relationships grew to become ones of trust and respect among colleagues. Overall, we have had a long-standing community support for good research at NARL, and our community members actively taking the time to work with scientists to make things happen. I hear of the stories from my parents of the time before them or the generation before them who would go and catch lemming for 10 cents a piece and sometimes even a quarter. So while there's this long-standing support association, even as a local scientist, it may be intense, and that is because community and leaders care that things happen here are done right and contribute to our society and not detract from it. So while sometimes it gets frustrating for community members to see duplicate research, to be surveyed too much, or upset for good reason when it interferes with our subsistence activities and does not contribute some ways or goes against what we know and value, our community wants research supported by us to happen here because we too want to be prepared and know what is happening in our environment and be able to adapt. And we definitely know research is needed. I think we have proven, and it has been championed by scientists, that it takes time to co-produce research and provide that it's now time to co-produce research and provide direct resources and funds to the region to implement the best research in the world. So we've learned that the best studies for whale research came from research dollars and leadership that originated with this community. And I think we should learn from like this and expand upon them and influence as we celebrate the anniversary. So I wanted to take a brief time to talk about logistics as well. Logistics of doing research are important, and logistical needs often constrain the work that gets done here in our communities, whether it's for research or providing services to the people. I was reading notes from a 2001 workshop 20 years ago with disciplinary input, found that the need for lodging, food services, lab space, equipment, constraining the research. And the report from the 2001 workshop stressed that the level of facilities would constrain future research. I think this is still the case today. Places like the Arctic Research Facility or the ARC bunkhouse that some of you may know of are deteriorating. And I read in a letter from 20 years ago, Mayor Mawak at the time, the North Slope Borough Mayor, wrote to the National Science Foundation the steps it would take for the BARC, the Borough Arctic Research Center, to become a reality. And from this letter, we know that the community of Wojciechowski wanted new facilities 20 years ago. And I think we want the rest of the facilities that were planned now for the next 75 years. And I think it will take all of us here and more to make it happen. So this panel is going to discuss community perspectives on research. And so community perspectives on the Arctic, from what I've learned, vary and depends on if the research questions and the objectives make sense and are relevant to this place. Local contributions to research make the research fruitful. And I think Wojciechowski is a vibrant place to conduct research with community, given all the help researchers can receive and what we can learn from each other in such a challenging place to do research like the Arctic. And I just want to conclude utilizing the ARC for some science. Hopefully our own can practice research here and across the North Slope into the future and make it as vibrant as it was in the past. Having our people as a part of the leadership of the research that happens here will lead to true self-determination, co-production of knowledge, and long-term monitoring of the Arctic. Kanayurak.